Well, hi, this is Lynn McCright, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're here with Teresa Walding, Darlene Hess, Margaret Erickson, Elmira Asongwed, and Wilkes. So thank you for joining us. And I'm just so inspired by the way that nursing is moving forward today. We have the opportunity of a lifetime right here, right now, knowing that what we are bringing had been foretold by Florence Nightingale back in 1870. She said that um, it would be 150 years before people would see the kind of nursing that I envision. Well, that year was 2020 and everything changed. So now we're rewriting the definition of nursing, rewriting the work that nurses do. And this um, holistic approach that we're talking about today comes in nurse coaching. It's the very basis of nurse coaching, that human to human interaction that is so rich and nourishes all of us who practice in this field. Well, I think I'll just invite Teresa Walding, our associate director. I'm Lynn McCright, and Teresa Walding is our associate director. I would love to just have you say a few words, Teresa, and begin when you're ready.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. I'm really excited about this topic today. This topic was one of the ways that I learned about what we teach in our school as far as coaching and the foundation of how human mental life works. And so flat earth thinking, I had never heard of it in this context before. So it really started getting my mind going like, where are places that I think things are working in ways they don't work? And insight into that, and I'll tell you my story here in a little bit, really shifted something within me that created space to come into alignment with nursing, my purpose in life, the things going on in my life. And I found a whole new world. And I want to share that with you and see what you can see for yourself. Over the next several months, we'll be talking about each of the 8 implications that we talk about in our coursework, just to give you a taste of why it's important and why we're up to the work that we're doing. And we would love for you to be on every part of this journey and give us your feedback and your insights. And I would just love to keep you in this community and get to know people. Nurses are ready to be part of a community, to support each other, to change the way that nursing has been done until now. Bringing back the essence of nursing for me is what it's about. And I think it's that for a lot of people. People I talk to, we just want to do the best we can to help people live their best life. So that's where we're at. So I think I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. Lynn, if you'd like to introduce us to the topic, that would be great. As we start here.
Oh, well, so flat earth thinking, breaking free from limiting beliefs. We know that there are a lot of things in the world today, and especially our subject today being our profession, where we have always done things a certain way. And what we're finding is that that way is no longer working. So that's what we describe as flat earth thinking. Remember the days when the mariners would take the big, big anchors with them on board their ships when they went sailing. They were so afraid that they might come to the edge of the world. And instead of falling off, they thought they could put the anchor down, and that would save them from disappearing over the edge. Well, when mankind found out that the world was round, those anchor makers went out of business, the really big anchor makers. So we're here to discover essentially the same thing in how we do our work today and how we use our interactions, our interpersonal relationships with others to forward our work and also our personal relationships at the same time.
So you'll hear these words quite often, implications, not applications. And what that means is we're pointing to something beyond the words as an implication or an implied meaning that the words don't hold quite the meaning for it. And not an application, which means we're not trying to do something to make it happen. So the foundation of our program is called the Three Principles Paradigm, and it provides really the specific and profound explanation of mental life, this deeper understanding than we've previously known. Many people have learned, as I did, thinking that we had to change someone's behaviors, not realizing the behavior preceded, the thinking preceded the behavior. That's the space we're pointing to. Through this paradigm, we can evolve because we're not trying to do something. We're not applying it to a circumstance. We're not trying to will ourselves to change. But through insight, which is the implication, the implied meaning, into the truth of how our mental life works, we actually have something we can count on now that will help us in those difficult times, in the places where we don't know what to do, or it looks like someone or something or a circumstance has everything to do with the way that we feel. And we base our decisions from that direction, and we don't feel like we're on solid ground. We never really have this sense of knowing what to do. We're pointing to that place of knowing.
Well, and really that implications, not applications, may need a bit more explanation.
Yeah.
Implications are if this, then that. And what we're talking about today really is as scientific as we can be in our work. This grounding, this foundation actually is the science that the new nursing will spring from. So instead of an application, something that is used, something that is applied, the implications tell us exactly where we stand on our foundation of scientific basis for nursing.
So just to launch from what Linda said, a paradigm is a set of foundational principles that people live by. It gives meaning to things, but many paradigms are not aligned with how life works. And our proposal here is to try to explain that in such a way that you can count on it for everything that you do in life. So the components are mind, consciousness, and thought. Many of you have heard that before. It's not new news. In the way that we're talking about it through implications, not applications, is really trying to get our internal truth meter to go, oh, that's true. Oh, that really is how it works. So mind, consciousness, and thought as neutral principles, they don't have any power until we put our own thoughts to it. However, in saying that, it's what's running the entire universe. So it knows exactly what to do at all times and creates the ecosystem, if you will, of the universe that we live in. We spend most of our time talking about thought because that's where, well, we're very familiar with it. It's through our thinking that we experience life, right? But there's this what we call the thought bridge, our connection to source, mind, consciousness, and thought as neutral powers, spiritual powers, if you will, that we get to use personal mind to create life with. And when we're not based on a foundation of how this works, we have flat earth thinking, like Lynn was talking about, thinking things work in a way they don't work. So it creates our experience of our thoughts taking form in the moment. And that's what gives us an experience of life and a place to really begin to understand what implications mean in our life. Lynn?
So this simply looks like words on a page, but these words are some of the most groundbreaking words that we have ever heard. I know that Teresa's going to tell us a bit about her experience when she heard about these implications the first time. I just want to spend some time right here, right now, with these words. So just soak it up like a sponge. Be a listener, not a thinker at this moment. So as Teresa has said, flat earth thinking is believing a system works in a way that it actually does not. So on the right-hand side, we're going to look at what we describe as outside-in thinking. And as I go along, the words will explain a bit about what outside-in is. We are fooled by flat earth thinking and innocently believe it to be true. This thinking preoccupies our mind and exponentially multiplies our thinking. So that's working in a way, thinking that it works in a way that it actually does not. So then we go to the left side, inside out. This is so different, so freeing, so much more open, and I just want to say it breathes life into us. Flat earth thinking is what is rendered obsolete. When we realize something is not true or even possible, we're less tempted to think about it and believe it is relevant. Our mind is quieted through subtraction of the obsolete thinking we no longer believe in.
What that looked like on the ground to me the day I heard these words was freedom. I came to the conference where Dr. Blevins presented these words for the very first time with 5 years of chronic pain, exhaustion from nursing. I thought, I can't do this anymore. I felt like my family was falling apart. My husband had recently retired. Anybody's been married to a military person, there's a huge adjustment time after you leave the military. And children who weren't doing very well. And of course, as the mom, you're supposed to keep everything moving, smoothly and helping them live life and, navigating big challenges. And I was exhausted. As a matter of fact, at this conference, I had plantar fasciitis for about 8 or 9 months. It was interfering with daily life. I had been doing tons of research, going to all kinds of practitioners. I had been to endocrinology, rheumatology, trying to figure out what's happening with my body. And I looked back and I realized that the day my daughter came home to go to treatment center, that was the day the plantar fasciitis started. But it started in the morning, and by evening I couldn't even walk on it, and it was still here. 9 months later, even though everything had settled down. And as I sat there and I heard about this flat earth thinking, and I knew that I was a worrier. That was our family's coping strategy. The more you worried meant the more you loved someone, right? And I was a professional at doing that. Knowing that the stress of that was hurting my body, but not knowing how to release it or how to let it go. And as I listened to how my thinking works and what that I was thinking life worked in a way it didn't work, there was never any way that I could have helped my family in the way that I was working on it. I left somebody very important out of it themselves. They were doing the best that they could, but I couldn't see it. It seemed like it was something I needed to take care of, to do, to fix. And when I heard him talking about this flat earth thinking, I realized I was thinking about it in a way that it didn't work. And next month, we'll be talking about separate realities specifically, but I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But when he talked about separate realities, that no two people can ever have the same thought ever, and even in the same circumstances, and the only one you're responsible for is yourself. Because of this flat earth thinking, I had an insight that went, oh, it's never worked this way. And I felt it in my nervous system, down my back, out my hands and feet, and the pain literally melted away. That was the moment I decided we needed to talk about this in a really big way in nursing, because I know there were so many people who were looking for healing, so many people who were suffering with their thinking. And now I had a way to describe that was incredibly helpful.
We're so innocent. We're all innocent. The thinking that we are doing currently is based on the best that we knew. It's time now for us to wake up to reality and see that there's a much, much larger energetic picture that's working with each one of us individually. And between ourselves and our environment, between ourselves and our coworkers, between ourselves and our family members, we have a tendency in this society to put so much store on feelings and diving into explore feelings when, especially they're the negative kind. If they were joyful feelings, we wouldn't bother because we wouldn't even notice. There wouldn't be anything to explore. We're preoccupying our minds, and the more thinking that we do, the more thinking that we have. It does multiply exponentially.
You know, it's funny because when you were saying that, there was so much thinking on my mind. I didn't have time for anything. You know, I would just go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And, you know, when your mind is so busy, you're kind of distracted from the things that you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing seems like a really big effort. And many times I did not know what else to do. So I just did it. I just worried some more. Like, what do I do? What do I do? When that quieted down, this subtracting thinking off my mind, that was the quietest my mind had been in years. Like, oh, if it never worked that way, there's no reason to think about it. There's no reason to go there. It was like this huge breath of fresh air that I could just finally take a deep breath and know that in this moment, that moment at that time, I'm perfectly fine. And as you keep having insight into these implications and you start seeing flatter thinking in many places in our lives, whether we're thinking about reasons why our boss does what they do. You know, we have a real fun story from one of our students who was working in a clinic who had trained the manager. And one day the manager came in and something didn't get done how she wanted it to. And she looked at her and said, "You don't know how to do your job." And she said her mind immediately just, she said it was a tornado of thought that went through my mind. And I was so angry, I just had to go in my office and shut the door. And she had been learning about flat earth thinking and separate realities. And she said, so she decided to just sit there and let the tornado go. And after a little while, she said her mind started to calm down a little bit. And she realized she wasn't upset about what the person had said to her. She was upset about what she thought they thought about her. Well, that was totally different. And so she decided, well, I can't have her thoughts and I have no idea what's going on. So I'm just not going to worry about it. Well, the next day, the lady came in and she goes, I'm really sorry about yesterday. I was just having a really bad day. And when she said that, I saw so many places where that was true in my life. And so many places where I could see it was true for other people as well. Because when you know how your thought works, you know it's working the exact same way for other people. You start seeing the games that people play, the games they play with themselves and you play with yourself, trying to figure things out in ways that it doesn't work. And then you begin to catch yourself and you're like, oh yeah, it doesn't work that way. What does that mean for me? Oh, well, maybe I don't have to go there. And as this subtractive thinking happens automatically, it becomes your internal sorter, your internal locus of control. All these little tiny insights into this start adding up like little micro changes. And pretty soon you're not the same person anymore. Things usually become easier until, of course, we forget. But as you notice, our internal selves like truth. We want to know what's true. And when something is true, we don't have to worry about it anymore. There is no worry when something is true. And as far as I can tell, it's been 8 years now, it'll be 9 in June. I'm still learning from this one implication because life keeps moving, things keep happening. But what I've noticed is I settle down much quicker. Or sometimes I just get insights into how to do things. And I think, well, how did that get there? But it's the most natural thing in the world because that's how it's always worked. And that creates this whole paradigm shift that we're talking about. As more and more people have insight into what it means to live from the inside out, we become healthier and healthier as individuals, as families, and societies. It's we're not the only ones teaching this perspective. There's a whole community out here. It's in 63 countries, and people are bringing this through their work to their families, and miracles are happening.
I love to look at that word subtraction briefly. I have often called it dropping thought. And then at some point we realized, well, that sounds like work. We're dropping something, dropping thought. And more recently, the way that we're looking at it is to use the word liquidate. And, it's like water. If it were an ice cube, it would just melt and slide away. There's no effort, just an understanding. So now we have the word, the big subtraction. And this is not an implication, it's simply an observation of the way that things work. So we'll just take it from the top, outside in on the right. We believe, and catch that word believe, we believe the false outside in explanation of where our feelings are coming from. We consider many different reasons for why we felt the way we do, why we feel the way we do. Our minds work overtime and repetitively. We are looking for a resonant feeling that registers as true. And truth does not exist in the outside in. Shallow, fearful, insecure feelings are hallmarks of the outside in misunderstanding of life. Over on the left, the outside in.
Inside out.
Inside out, how does that feel? As outside in misunderstanding is seen for what it is, it naturally falls away. We are left with secure, not fearful thought and feeling. This is the big takeaway. We find ourselves living in an inside out world of deeper wisdom, where feelings of love, compassion, gratitude, quiet-mindedness, respect, humility, and an inner strength reside. These are not a list of things to try to accomplish. These happen to us when the outside in falls away as logical or even possible. We naturally live a more loving and better life. Wow, that is just so rich. We find ourselves living for feelings. I mean, we've got 7 of these things: love, compassion, gratitude, quiet-mindedness, respect, humility, and inner strength. Who wouldn't want access to those kinds of feelings? And in the next paragraph, so good to know, these are not things to accomplish. These happen when the outside in falls away as logical or even possible. It's not possible. It's not logical. Outside in doesn't actually make any sense. When we naturally live in a more loving and better life, we are in harmony with the universe. We are in harmony with the way life works. We are in harmony with ourselves and with others. Working harmoniously, we can accomplish huge things that all of the distracted thinking and obsolete ideas that kept us bound are released.
I
Teresa?
think for me, it's the simplicity of this. It almost seems like it's too simple. Like, no, there has to be something to do to get the results that we're getting. And really the big subtraction is saying, listen, when something's not true and you just don't put your attention on it, it doesn't exist anymore. That internal truth meter, as it continuously works, whether you're aware of it or not, We want to know how life works. There's whole books, there's schools and universities and anything you can imagine. There people are pointing to this actual fact. And we honor the work that people are doing. This particular work that we're doing supports that at the most fundamental level. And I think what we'll see as time goes on is the parts of theories that are not true will simply just not be part of their theory. One of the ways we talk about it, when truth is heard, we all hear it the same. It's always the same because it comes from one place. These three principles, mind, consciousness, and thought, that inform all of life, informs how the trees grow, how the earth rotates, how human bodies work. We don't have to do anything for those things to occur. That's what we have access to as human thinking beings. We have this incredible receiver called the brain that we get to learn and use and navigate life with. And you know, the mind is everything, but the brain is biological. It actually has a physiological function, but through it we have access to all the knowledge of the universe. It's where cars and planes came from. It's where new knowledge comes from. Everything is here for us to support us at all times when we begin to have the eyes to see it. I could never imagine some of the insights that some of our students have had. One of our students, when she came to us, she was like, I'm doing this because I'm getting out of nursing. I can't stand it anymore. She's a cath lab nurse. And halfway through the program, she goes, you're never going to believe what I just did. I was like, what'd you do? She goes, I signed up for another 13 weeks because what I've been learning about how my mind works, I see the implications for the people I work with, and it's making such a big difference. So they're little tiny conversations. They're little tiny ways that you show up when you know where your thoughts and your feelings are coming from. And you stop worrying about things that don't matter and things that you can't control. That's the subtraction. You just stop worrying about it. And doesn't mean that sometimes you won't get caught up in it, but once you realize, oh, yeah, guess what's happened? I've done it again, because it's a misunderstanding we've all had. We all do it every day. The difference is knowing where your experience is coming from, this inside out, these implications that point us home to our internal wisdom. The more often that we tap into that, the better and better life gets. That's the ease. My boss one time said, I said, what would make your life better? She goes, the easy button. I just want an easy button. This is the easy button. This is what helps us navigate this internal dialogue that we all have that helps us navigate life. And in that sense, it's the easiest thing I've ever done. Even when I forget and call in and go, I can't get out of my head, and she's like, Teresa, stop. You're as safe as you've ever been right now in this moment. And I heard that and I knew it was true, because we can make up a lot of stories about why things are the way they are, or have fearful thinking lots of times about the future, and especially in big decision making. But when we stop telling ourselves the stories and just look at the circumstance for what it is, if you can look at it without your own personal feelings about it, you may actually see something different and maybe approach it from a way that you hadn't done before. And we can do those in relationships, our personal dialogue, everything. So the summary: implications of flat earth thinking. When we know how thoughts work, we suffer less. When we do not entertain thoughts that are not true, we get that internal locus of control that goes, oh, guess what? That's not really true. Let me go back. When we do not focus on ways that don't work, we get a quieter mind. And I know a lot of people tell me all the time, my mind never shuts down. The feelings of overwhelm and stress and overthinking are exhausting for them. This has helped many people. It never stops completely, but a much quieter mind is a huge change. We begin to just naturally or subconsciously subtract thinking that no longer serves us. If it's not true, there's no reason to go there. And this promotes the clarity that many people are looking for, especially in decision making. And to be honest, it's the most fun I've ever had. Learning to navigate life from this perspective, it almost becomes like a game. Like when you catch yourself thinking in a way it doesn't work, you have to laugh because it just seems like the normal thing to do. But that's where the healing always occurs. And life does get easier. Any last words, Lynn?
Thank you, Teresa. That was well done.
Yeah. We'd love for you to connect with us, nursecoaching.com. Like I said, our whole program is based on these implications, not applications, that we'll be presenting once a month for the next several months to give people a good idea about why we're doing it, why it's important, and really truly how it helps humanity. I just want to have this last slide that these implications, not applications, were created by Dr. Keith Blevin and Valda Monroe. He is our mentor. She is also our mentor, amazing human beings. And so this work has been used by permission from them. And I want to recognize them for this incredible PDF that they have created that we use in our school.
Okay. Wow. Well, and I do want to say that the video of that conference is actually on the AHNCC website. It's called the Introduction to the Resilience Paradigm, and it also offers 6 CEs if you'd like to avail yourself of the CE option. In regard to ourselves, you can contact us at the Contact Us tab on nursecoaching.com.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I would love to invite any questions that people might have. Questions, observations, yeah, buts.
I love the idea of thinking being distracting. We're all taught to think all the time. We're taught as a young child, think about it before you do it. And I like the idea of getting rid of so much thinking so the distraction was out of the way so I could get my work done.
Yeah. What did you hear that was specific for you, Margaret? Or
Oh,
can
I
you
was taking some notes, but one of the first things I wrote down was thinking precedes behavior.
Right.
Yep.
And that made me really think about it because we get caught up in this hamster wheel, and with the inside out, it changes our ability versus the outside in. It changes, like you said, the paradigm and how we think about it. So there were a lot of things that I took away, and I just want to say thank you.
Wow. That reminds me, I think it was Skinner at the University of Minnesota in 1950s that did the work with the dogs. And basically that's where the behavior came from. And now we have a whole field of behavioral care. And they miss the point completely that the thought comes first. So we have a lot of reworking to do. Oh, great. Elmira, you've got your hand raised. Question?
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Good morning. I
Good.
didn't really know what to expect, but I'm glad that I tuned in. This has been very helpful. So I have a lot of students that are not mindful at all. They try to do 5 things at the same time and just get all wound up the wrong way. So this is very, very helpful. And I thank you for the presentation.
Oh,
You're
wonderful.
welcome.
So are you teaching at a basic nursing level? Is that the group of students you work with?
Yes, I have a generic associate degree and RN to BSN students. So
Oh, wow.
we have both. Mhm.
We
Wow.
would love, Teresa and I would love to see this as a module within every school of nursing. So thank you for being with us. Our program is offered not only through our own online continuing education program, but also through Texas Wesleyan University, the
Okay.
DNP program there. So we're in 2 places at once, as it were.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for doing the work that
My
you,
hands down.
Yeah. Hey,
Okay.
Darlene.
I always love these presentations, Teresa and Lynn. They're so congruent with the work that I do and have been ever since you developed them. I do want to say that this kind of thinking, without using this particular reference and this particular teaching, is introduced in the holistic BSN program, the holistic program, and I think it is getting into the holistic nursing programs. These ideas that thinking and how we think precedes behavior, and it also precedes how we feel. And
Yeah.
that's a huge step in helping nurses work with people's emotions and the things that they are going through. Just helping a patient or self make a connection between what I'm thinking, and I want to add here as an insert, what I'm thinking so habitually that I don't even realize I'm thinking it. It has become such a core belief, which then links back to your model here. It's such a core belief that I don't even question it, never have questioned it,
Right.
that can be an entryway for a nursing intervention, a comment, a question, the right question at the right time, which gets into nurse coaching, of course. And I have found for myself, I had one more thing here, that when I am in that quiet place of no thinking, I can access what needs to be said in the moment, or whatever needs to be done in the moment. And the better I get at that, the more satisfying the coaching and counseling that I do becomes. I have no agenda. I have no agenda except to be of service. And with that agenda, anything and everything can happen.
Yeah.
And you are teaching and leading the way to accessing that place. It's ancient stuff. I mean, these are ancient.
It is.
This knowing is in the mystery teachings. It's in all scriptural, honored scriptures throughout the world, in all of our religions, and even religions that no longer exist.
right?
So bringing it to the forefront and matching it and talking about it in relationship to science or this other way of thinking that has led us so far away from this deeper knowing that every one of us has access to, is an incredible, and you're saying it in your presentation, you're saying it's an incredible, innovative, and needed thing to do, and call it nursing, because it is nursing. In the big definition of nursing, which is to serve others and to promote health and well-being, we have to do it. Once we know it, each of us individually has to do it. You can't get away from it, because to try to get away from it is to separate yourself and to not live in that peaceful place. Those are my comments today. Thank you.
Thank
Wow.
you.
While you were talking about it, I thought what this really is, inside out, is really accessing the spiritual energy and core that is universal. And, one of the things that occasionally when when I'm trying to get out of that hamster wheel so I can be more effective, so I can do better self-care, etc., there's that recognition of getting out of my own way. And that
Yes.
out of my own way is usually cognitive, and it's that ritual thinking
Right.
that you were talking about, where we have this, it's almost like the suit we put on of thoughts. And it's like, okay, I get up in the morning and I put this on. And it might be, oh, this is going to be really hard, or oh, I wish I was better at this, or the shoulding that we all do. And it is coming back to that. And yet our world is built around, like you said, science and cognitive, the focus on the mind and the cognition instead of the focus on the inner source and the being.
Well, it's an outside-in paradigm that we're living in
Oh,
Mhm.
very
from
much
the
so.
beginning. William James in 1870 wrote the first book, 1890, sorry, The Principles of Psychology, and all of his friends read it and said, there's no principles in here. And he said, no, but I know that there are.
Mhm.
And someday we'll find them. And we found them. They're called mind, consciousness, and thought, that only exist together, period. And from there, everything we talk about, everything we do arises from that place. It's not inside of us. It is inside of us, but it's living through us. And I just said that kind of wrong because here goes the words, it's aligned with the principles, but we, because of our personal thought habits, our personal thinking, take it off track and turn it into something that it's not. Outside in thinking.
Mhm. Well, Teresa, you can't help but, you can't help but stumble over words like inside and outside
I know.
because we still think that we are this contained self when who
Right.
we are extends infinitely into
That's
the
right.
universe and onward, whatever that means for people. So inside and outside, space, the words we use, the languaging itself is outside in.
Absolutely, because once it takes form,
It's
it
no
falls
longer
on the
true.
ears of whoever's listening in
Yes.
whatever state of mind they're listening in. So
Right.
that there it changes again. That's you'll hear Lynn and I stumble over words and try to correct ourselves the best that we can, the best way we know how. As we try to point this direction, which is why we call it, Dr. Blevins called it implication. It's beyond the words. Don't listen to the words. Listen to what's being said beyond that. Because you will find your own truth from there. I can't know your truth. You have to do that yourself. But we are truth meters. We like to know what's true.
I like that when you said that. I wrote that down. When
Yeah.
you hear truth, when truth is heard, we all hear it the same.
Yes.
Yeah, that was nice.
And that's
Thanks.
what my care plan is based on, are the principles, these implications, and the care plan is the internal dialogue that we all use to live life with as we navigate truth.
It's the self-care plan.
The self-care plan. It's still evolving because as I continue to use it with people in my coaching and stuff, I keep learning about it.
Yeah.
So it to me, it feels like it's a living care plan. It's a care plan that has no limits, no boundaries. And it helps the person themselves uncover their own internal wisdom so they can live their own life from that direction.
Living.
Yeah.
When we try to put people in a place and a time and we make it restrictive, it becomes problematic versus when we have something like you're talking about, living and breathing, that is, and aligned is even a difficult word for me because it's linear. I mean, I hear
Right.
linear
Yeah,
when you
and it's not. I mean,
but
it's a
but
good word if you're you're just
Uh,
beginning.
We say in harmony.
in harmony with that's much better, in harmony with our life view and our life experiences, and that's ever evolving. So, you know, a living breathing plan, um a living breathing dialogue of assurance and affirmation, a living breathing plan or program that supports our connections is what we have to be thinking about as we interact with others, as we interact with ourselves.
You nailed it. That's what we're trying to do.
Oh, you're doing a great job. And I think it's funny that Darlene, myself, and Elmira all came in on pink today.
Oh, that's fun. And Lynn has red. I'm the odd man out.
Valentine's month
Yeah,
is,
yeah, that's
is
fun.
upon us, right?
That's fun.
Thank you.
The thing that is so striking to us is that people don't see things as thought. So many people think that if they have a thought, they have to do something about it. They don't know they can let it go.
That's a
Or they
relief to
don't-
me.
Or they don't know that they can just sit with it and ask themselves how it feels and use that feeling to determine if it's useful for them.
Yeah, they just act on it, and that's when they ended up in prison and in the insane asylums. They they are controlled by their thoughts. And nothing could be further from the truth. They don't see it as thought. And we well, it's an ancient word. We have dominion over our thoughts. And not that we can decide exactly what thought to think next. It's like Kleenexes. You have one thought and then pull it out, and then there's another one and another one. And we don't truly control our thought. I mean, people who try to do that are just beside themselves. And we thought continues all through the night. There is never a time that we're not thinking, and we can't know what that next thought's going to be, but we can choose to live, to hang on to it, or to let it go. And it is, as you say, that feeling will tell us if it's something that we'd like to continue with or not.
I like one of our mentors, Dr. Pettit, talks about those feelings as love letters, letting us know what to do next. Pay attention.
Lovely.
Yeah. So we all get a bunch of love letters now. As we realize what those are, we, like Lynn said, we can choose which ones to pay attention to or not. And I really feel like the huge insight that allowed my body to heal, the pain was a love letter saying, listen, what are you doing with your thinking? And I didn't know it. And I didn't want it to be like that. But we've all had that feeling, like that realization or the insight into how something works. And we immediately feel the lightness that comes with it. It comes as a feeling. Insight has a feeling of its own.
Oh, what
That's
a relief.
that's also a love letter. Oh, that's what that is. And that feels good. And that's one way that I can navigate in my body. What's going on with me is how I'm showing up. And I like knowing that. No matter what's showing up, I like knowing where it's coming from.
I like knowing that too, Teresa. I like
Yeah.
knowing a lot.
Yeah, it's great.
We're going to be presenting the self-care plan both as a poster and a podium presentation at Nurseology next month.
Yep. If you
Great.
sign up, come on March 22nd at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. is the podium and 11:15 is the poster.
Wow.
Okay, ladies, I'm gonna go there now. I need to get going.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep,
What
us
a
too.
delight to be with
Thank you for
today.
coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone who wants to contact us, this will be on our YouTube channel and will be available to you. Just type in nursecoaching.com, which is advancing nurse coaching, and go to the contact us page. Thank you so much for your time today. Have
Thank
a
you.
have a
You're
wonderful
welcome.
day. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.